All right, so the ESPN ranks Aidan Hutchinson as the fifth best edge rusher in pro foosball. By the way, some people got an issue with it. I really don't have an issue with it. Um, a lot of people say he kind of get come close with no cigar too much. Ain't had a whole bunch of he hasn't had a whole bunch of help neither. But it's always close, no cigar with him. But then it's kind of hard when you don't have nobody else. They can drift up in the pocket, or they can drift to the opposite side of him, to their right or to their left, and buy some time. So that's why it's very important that you have somebody else there. And then, obviously you had Manti Te'o saying that how he didn't really care for the Detroit Lions scheme because the scheme was basically man-to-man coverage without sending blitz. And that's something that they, or the shell coverage, that's something that they've been doing. Um, Honestly, that's something they've been doing, since Aaron Glenn, where they play shell coverage man-to-man, and then they only start blitzing. They only start to blitz when they get, when they have injuries. So I think, I've been telling y'all that's what, Dan Campbell wants. But if you're gonna play man-to-man coverage, even if you're gonna play a two high, or you're gonna play a rob or a single high and double somebody underneath, or rob underneath, my thing is you got to be able to send exotic blitzes. That's just what it is. Even if you get there with four, you got to send blitzes to keep people guessing, right? So let's go through this list. Myles Garrett is number one. I don't think anybody, would doubt that he's the best. And people may point to, well, he can do it. Well, he got some help in Cleveland. I mean, I think that's a known fact. He got some help in Cleveland. He got help. But in general, I think also kind of pointing back to Manti Te'o question. I think also it points to the fact that Aidan Hutchinson is at a disadvantage by not having help, but also in a disadvantage by them not having the scheme, by him not having the scheme for them to help him out. But this is it's 30 years old, clean sweep, first last year, first this year. Micah Parsons number two, he was number three last year. He's been his lowest ranking has been 5, highest ranking 2 this year. Last year, he did great things in Green Bay. He was a difference in those matchups with us, other than the struggling offense. When you start talking about kind of with I don't know why I'm about to say Jim Bob Cooter, but when we start kind of talking about what's dude's name, I forgot his name, the one offensive coordinator they got from Denver. So you had that struggle right there with him. But Micah Parsons was a game record. Now apparently his injury he suffered last year is going to push his return back to, I think they said, late October. So predicated on speed, got injured late last year. Elite burst, closing speed to make plays. He has the most rush versatility of the group. Constantly wins over center guards, tackles. It doesn't matter where he is, a veteran coach said. Parsons is one of 5 players in NFL history to record 65 sacks through 5 seasons, joining Derek Thomas, Hall of Famer, TJ Watt, to be Hall of Fame, JJ Watt, to be Hall of Famer, and Reggie White, rest in power to him, Hall of Famer. So that's an elite company. Will Anderson is number 3. He's been as low as 8. He's been as high as 2, I'm guessing, last year. Anderson steady improvement over the 3 seasons elevated him to top tier. He was tied with Las Vegas Max Crosby in the vote, but won the tiebreaker by getting more top 5 votes. Anderson creates havoc. He's credited with causing 43 incompletions in 2025, 6 more than any other rusher. He has 30 sacks in 3 years, a Defensive Rookie of the Year award, and all pro honor. All made it easy for Houston to commit $150 million in a 3-year extension. Quote, still feel like he's underrated to a degree, NFC scout said. A true 3-down force multiplier who demands attention and has a rare ability to elevate his play of his teammates. And I think he's underrated because he played in Houston And I really think they could have gave him a clear picture there, right? Uh, and I think that's because all the focus is on CJ Stroud and how bad he's been playing ever since a phenomenal rookie year. And I think there that was where the spotlight is at. But I mean, last year Texans had a championship type of defense. Him, Daniil Hunter, he was another guy that the Lions swung and missed on. He chose to go back home in Houston. I mean, that's the story of the Detroit's life. The Pistons swung and missed on some guys. The Lions swung and missed on Myles Garrett last year. They swung and missed this year on Max Crosby. They swung the year before last on what's the brother's name? Daniil Hunter. I mean, it's just they keep missing. They keep missing. So at some point, they gotta we just need to be able to get it done. Um, but yeah, Will Anderson's a beast. I think they took him and CJ Stroud in that same draft, right? If my memory serves me correctly, him and Stroud came in that same draft. Fourth is Max Crosby, a guy that the Lions could have traded for. All they pitchers are murky, so no disrespect. Voters who value a complete game, relentless play from the start to finish rank Crosby very high. He has the best motor of any defensive player. He's a bad motherfucker. That's what they say in Zach said, versus the run, pass, whatever. He's a pain in the ass all game. Crosby has 69.5 sacks in 7 seasons, joining Greg Townsend 107.5 and Howie Long 84 as the only Raiders to surpass 60 sacks mark since 1982. Crosby 35 career games with 5 or more pressures since entering the league in 2019 are the most in NFL during the span. You're getting a complete body of work with Max. He does everything well, an AFC executive said, quote, pass rush, splash plays, great against the run, high motor, tackles in the backfield. Now, I remember somebody last year took a shot at him and said he wasn't good against the run. I forget who said that, and he fired back. And apparently the people that matter that know football says he's great against the run, and it's just another guy, another near miss, which the Lions should have just went out there, got it. But, then, there's some give and take there. You go out there, you get this guy, guess what? Then you got to go, then you have to go pay. Then you can't pay somebody. So, I think they value keeping their own guys in house. But Crosby was a guy, especially when they made that shift to in LA to Myles Garrett. This is a guy they should have just figured it out later and made it happen. But him being a local guy, I think he's from Lapeer, Michigan, and pairing him with Aidan Hutchinson would have been ill, another local guy. The Dallas they could have brought in. So lowest ranking for Aidan Hutchinson is 8. Last year he ranked 7. Highest ranking was 2. He said Hutchinson's unique skill set makes him a steady climber at the board, similar to Anderson last season. Hutchinson ranked 2nd in pressures, 3rd in quarterback hits, and tied for 2nd for forced fumbles and 4th in sacks and 14.5. It was a complete performance coming off a serious injury that cost him half the campaign. I think that year, last year, if we keeping it a bean, he was probably going to be NFL Defensive Player of the Year. Skills with hands, very good. Speed, the power to keep offensive tackles off balance, and his superpowers is his motor is nonstop. A veteran NFL defensive coach said, first player since 1982 to have 40 or more pressures and 5 or more interceptions in the first 4 seasons. And at the end of the day, he just needs some help. I think his inability to close that gap on the quarterback is because the quarterback can improv. Whether it was a beat up secondary last year, whether it's their ability to drift up the pocket or push up the pocket and didn't have Lee McNeil, didn't have Levi Onwuzurike, or his ability to drift the other way and buy time, they just didn't really have that other threat. They didn't have that other threat. So when you don't have that other threat, it hurt. It hurt. So I think he closes the gap if they have the other threat. So when they don't have that other threat, it's hard to close that gap. But I think there's some talks, about them. Derek Moore, I think Morgan, or is it Derek Moore? Excuse me. They having some talks about Peyton Turner. There been a little bit of hype from Grant Stewart about Peyton Turner. So this is really probably going to get Very interesting when we started to talk about him getting help, and maybe they may do some more zone that may help him out. He may drop a little bit more. They might do some more exotic things. You may see them do some more exotic things, you know, with they front, you know. So maybe more stunts, more blitzes, And I know they don't really want to blitz, but Jesus Christ, you're gonna have to blitz if you're gonna play man to man. I mean, even when you play zone, it's gonna have to be a certain level of pressures that you send in zone, or at least look like you send pressure and confuse the offensive or defensive line, and where you coming and where you going. There needs to be some guesswork. They can't be as vanilla as four down linemen. We might stun. We might we might stun somebody. We might wrap somebody around. Or no, you got to confuse people. You got to come with some type of complexity. And what's so funny, as complex as the Detroit offense is, the defense is just very vanilla. And imagine with all that talent they got, if they did something more than just line up in man-to-man coverage and the shell coverage, and if they did some more, they got to do more. They got to, play better, more zone. And then they only tend to want to blitz and play zone. They only want to tend to blitz and play zone when they only tend to do it is when, somebody get injured. When they get a bunch of injuries, then all of a sudden they want to blitz and play zone. So I think Aidan Hutchinson, if he was somewhere else where they was able to get him more help and utilize, his talents the right way, especially when we started to just talk about, getting them some help and calling them more complex offense. I think we having a different conversation here. You know what I mean? But that's just my little opinion on it. It ain't much, but hey, appreciate y'all for supporting the channel. Check out Detroit Lions Talk playlist. Find me on X, Facebook, Kick, Twitch, Instagram, Spotify, Anchor, Cash App, Venmo, PayPal. Check out the Detroit Lions Talk playlist. I got just a bunch of Lions videos lying around that it's just been so, it's just been so it just been so pissed. It just been so piston. It been so piston dominant that I just got a bunch of line videos going around, and the Pistons then drug this offseason, and now with summer league, but they didn't drug the offseason damn near into Lions training camp. And that's good for content creators, like me, who cover both of them. So I do appreciate y'all for tapping in. Lions videos will get to rolling. I don't know when y'all gonna see this, but I appreciate y'all. Peace.